Well, hello again. Good to see you. Today I want to have a quick chat with you about how to structure a large project piece of work, right? That may go together with something that is not really agile. And in this example, it's going to be more of like an IoT project. So the app has a defined set of functionality that's not, it's not really agile in the kind of extreme programming sense where new features need to be added and you need to quickly adapt. Like you kind of have like a set of use cases, and you're basically defining a project and how to best structure it to reduce the impact of changes for that project without being constantly asked to change things. Things will more likely change at the start of a project than they will kind of like at the end in terms of the basic functionality. So you want to create prototypes and UI prototypes for people to use. And so what I'm kind of suggesting that you can do, and what I've done to really great effect and success when building projects, in particular software apps, is you go kind of like through a three-stage process. So stage number one, generally, after you have like your requirements for your use cases in a dynamic document, so usually in a wiki or something like that, you have a process for when changes come in to the use cases. Those use case changes then reflect in the design. So the use case descriptions and the functionality are always the source of truth. When a change comes through, goes to the use case. Then what follows is the user experience changes on the UI, so the design changes that happen from that. And the other one is then the code changes go in. Obviously, if you're at the start of a project where you're greenfielding a huge project, there's a little bit of a different way you can do it, right? This is what I've done. And so what it is that I actually have the use cases. Okay, you start with them. But then the first thing you do is you get the team to build wireframes, right? So while the design teams are quickly building up the wireframes, it doesn't take very long, and you kind of get the use case flow done first. So you start building that so you know what kind of components go where and generally what kind of functionality is going to go into everything. So what you can do then is you build out the wireframes in the code, and you have mock data that you can fill in with the wireframes. And then what you do is for the use cases, you start implementing them with the mock data, right? So the use cases are in the business logic layer, and the data is in the services layer. So you might have like stored data or data from a device. Like I mentioned, like an IoT specific functionality. So what happens is you go through the wireframing process. Say that all the wireframes are done, everybody's agreed. If something changes during this entire process, it's much easier to change wireframes and to change the use case code before you start fleshing everything out and putting a styling on everything. So the next step is you have your wireframes, you've defined your use cases, and then you go through and you style it all, right? Essentially, after you've styled it, if there's a device, for instance, an IoT device that your app connects to, what you can do is if you've got your mock data layer, you can then plug in instead of a mock device driver, you can plug in a real device driver. So I've done that for Bluetooth and for a LoRaWAN, and it's just worked perfectly. I've just been able to plug one out, plug one in, and the app experience can be tested and can be figured out, and the client or the customer can use the app without actually having a physical device yet, but they can learn and see if they like the user experience, right? So if they don't like something, they can change it without impacting the actual driver or the kind of functionality layer. So you can then go back and change the use cases, and you just don't have to have that much rework when you separate it into these three layers. So I've done a video previously about that type of structure, the app structure, where you have your presentation layer, you have your use case business logic layer, and you have your services. And what I'm trying to communicate here is how you build that out when you're in a position of building a greenfield project, and you need to build up towards an end goal without having 100% clarity on what it is that it's going to be at the end. So again, just a review. So you do the use cases, right? Write out the document that describes the use cases. That's the source of truth, right? That's like the design document. That then reflects in the design, the actual wireframes and the styling, and then the next one is the actual building of the project. Now, very often I found that once you kind of get to the end, you've released it, the use cases, they kind of fall by the wayside. They're not necessarily, the documentation for them isn't updated, and that's okay. I mean, at that point, what I've transitioned to is like, once you've kind of got I would just say, like, the training wheels off, like the use case document is important, and I'm sure that if you're in a large organization where you have the resources to maintain it, do maintain it. But at that point, you transition to the design as the source of truth, right? Because that's where the functionality is that everyone's going to kind of look at and refer to. They can easily refer to all the different screens, the different flows, prototyping, things like that. And then when you use the app and you see that something's wrong or something changes, you go back and you kind of discuss the changes through the I guess the agile process of writing stories. So that the stories then reflect the changes in the design and then the changes in the app. I think it's important to maintain design and not just always use your app code as the source of truth. I mean, I've been able to do it with one other developer, like 2 developers, 3 developers. We've had no problem keeping up the design, right? The design in Figma that we use. It's not something, even if you're a resource constrained team, it's not a big deal to update designs in Figma. I think you could probably even do it yourself if you have it. Maybe, look, I know some people just build apps and they write the code, but I find that it's easy to get lost in what you're trying to achieve if you just reflect your entire understanding of a project just in the code, right? So if you've got like an iOS app and you don't have a design for it and you don't maintain, or you had a design and you don't maintain it, it's going to be more difficult to make changes and to see the scale and the scope of the functionality. So even if you can't keep the use case document updated, at least try to keep the design updated. Guys, that's a quick one for today. I hope you got something out of it. If you're on a Greenfield project, congratulations. It's a really great place to be. It's excellent to start on something new and to build it from the ground up and take all the lessons you've learned and apply them. I would love to do it again at some point, but there's just right now I'm just full on with existing project work. So anyway, let's get back, speaking of work, let's get back to it. I'll catch you later. Bye.